Good morning, dear students of class 12. Welcome to the English online learning class. Today we are going to further continue with the value points of the lesson Should Wizard Hit Mommy by John Updike. We have already done the text of this lesson. So the story is based on child and father, their conflict of opinion. It is the child's perspective contrast the adult perspective of life. And at the same time, in these storytelling questions, some difficult moral questions are raised. Let us look into some of the value points of this lesson. Now, the storytelling sessions. Jack is the father who used to tell his daughter, Jo, who's a 4-year-old girl, stories. And he started telling stories to his daughter when she was just 2. The purpose of telling these stories was to put the daughter to sleep. It was almost like a custom, a rite that was being fulfilled by the father. The purpose was not to educate the daughter, but just a small purpose to put her to sleep. Now, these days, the storytelling sessions were futile. They were useless. The right of storytelling sessions, as mentioned in the lesson. As the girl was growing up, the storytelling sessions lost their purpose. The purpose was to put the daughter to sleep. As the daughter could not be put to sleep, Jack found the storytelling sessions tiresome, very exhausting. It was fatiguing as the girl was growing up and she did not accept his word as truth. So, in between the story, there were a lot of interruptions made by the girl. Probably she was growing up, she was going to school, she was learning new things, and she was not prepared to take things as they were being told. So she kept questioning the curious nature, the curious mind of a child that seeks for answers. Now, the common pattern of Jack's stories in all the stories was the same. The basic tale was built around a main character, Roger, who had some problem and which differed from one story to the other. So the main character remained the same, but the animal would be different in all the stories. At the same time, the problem differed from one story to the other. Now, that is, Roger was directed by Owl to go to the wizard who charged for the service in the form of pennies. Roger always ran short of money. But later, with the guidance of the wizard, he found the remaining amount and paid for the service. And then Roger would happily go join his friends, and later on he would reach home just in time when his father returned, and mother had prepared a very grand night supper. And the supper was described by Jack, who had all the qualities of an expert storyteller. Throughout the lesson, we notice the qualities of Father Jack as an expert storyteller, who never compromised with his story. All the stories had a happy ending. So the basic structure of the story remained the same in all the stories. At the same time, with minor variations, all the stories appeared different. Now that particular day, the story narrated by father was about Roger's cat, and who smelled bad and was neglected by his friends. And one day he goes to the wise owl, who directs him to go to the wizard. The wizard, with the help of his magic wand, makes him smell like roses. On his return, his friends accept him, except his mother. She does not like the change. She gets angry and orders the wizard to change his son to the original smell. She also hits the wizard hard with an umbrella. The wizard does as he is directed by Roger's mother. Roger's skunk has no choice but to accept his mother's wish. So here the deliberate change in the ending was introduced by the father as a twist to his story. Because as the story was progressing, although Jack was initially behaving like a democratic storyteller by asking the opinion of the girl whom the story should be based about, and the girl said that she wanted the story to be based on Roger's skunk. Probably she had learnt about skunks in a nursery school. Now, so far, the story went smoothly, and Jack was also enjoying the storytelling session, although in between he was interrupted by the girl by asking questions, and and Roger, uh, the father Jack, he answered to these questions uh, in a very means very hurriedly in a line. He tried to explain the answers. He did not go into the depth. He enjoyed that the daughter showed excitement in his story. She also felt very emotional when she came to know about Roger Skunk's problems. The, how bad he smelled and how he was neglected by his friends. Although this had the element of Jack's own personal life, it had an autobiographical quality. Now, Jack also in between felt that now he should proceed the story as fast as he could so that he would join his wife who had already started working and who was in the family way. At point, he found that his daughter was resembling his wife, the expression that she showed. But then, gradually, as the story was progressing, she seemed to have lost interest. She was not genuinely showing her emotions, and that hurt Jack, the storyteller. And as the story was coming to its end, the daughter seemed to show a kind of disinterest. She was not sleeping. At the same time, she was looking out of the window. So Jack took it as an insult. The story was taken for granted. The ending of the story was taken for granted. It hurt him. He wanted women to behave in a certain manner. He wanted them to be apprehensive, to be hanging on his words. But this behavior of the daughter was not acceptable to him. And so he deliberately introduced a twist in the story. The twist was when Roger Skunk reached home, his mother, instead of being happy, got angry. And she said that you are going to go with me to the wizard who has dared change you to this smell. And not only this, she punished the wizard by hitting him on his head with the umbrella. And finally, the wizard changed his son to his original smell, changed her son to his original smell. Now, this sort of twist ending to the story was not acceptable to the girl. And she pleaded her father first to change the ending of the story. But the father was not in a mood to listen. It seemed that it was a question of prestige, and he was very adamant to give his ending to the story, showing that he very possessive quality, that it is his story. He will end it the way he wants. Now, if we look into Jo's opinion, she was happy as long as the story moved on the familiar line. She wants to see the characters happy, Roger happy. And she thinks that the parents should understand their children's need properly. This is what she feels through the story of Roger Skunk. She feels that Roger Skunk's mother should understand Roger's need. She cannot accept Roger Skunk's mother's decision and wishes that the wizard should hit back at the mother. She calls the mother a stupid mommy. She argues with her father for a different end to the story and is not ready to accept her father's decision. Even when the story has come to an end and father has left the room, telling his daughter to fall asleep, and he joins his wife, his daughter is agitating. She is showing a different behavior. She wants her father to tell the story the next day with a different ending. Now, Jack's parallel narrative. Throughout the story, there is the Jack's parallel narrative that is done. So I would say it's a story within a story and many other stories. The story shows incidents which have some relation with Jack's life. Roger Skunk's story are of Jack's childhood memories and insults he had to face. He draws the character of Roger Skunk's mother on the lines of his mother, who is dominating and who takes decision for him. And Jack enjoys the effect of his story on his daughter. Now, the entire story, Should Wizard Hit Mommy, is based on adult perspective versus child's perspective. Jack is obsessed with the idea of being right always. Parents, elders are always right. He is unable to accept anyone opposing him. He likes women to accept his word as final. He is unable to accept daughter forming an independent opinion. So he is not a mature father. He should have prepared his daughter for this sort of end, like by telling her that this awful smell, the bad smell of skunks are their natural smell, and it keeps them away from their enemies. So it's a kind of safeguard. Probably the daughter would have understood it. Rather, he imposed his viewpoint on the daughter, which the daughter was not able to understand. He strongly believes parents are always right and know what is good for their children. Towards the end, we find that he is going through a troubled phase in his married life. Rather, if we talk about work-life balance, he is not able to cope up. Probably there are many pressures, say his office work, his household work, which he is not able to cope up, and which makes him feel caged, an ugly middle position. These are the two words used. And he wants to escape from the responsibilities of family life. The story ends here, leaving a big question mark for all of us, that how far it is right for parents, or to say for elders, to take decisions, or not to take decisions but impose their decision, their viewpoints on children, on youngsters. And you think what the parents think is always right? So at this point, the story ends. So we are going to end here. You are going to reflect upon the lesson. Write down the main points in your English copies. And any doubts, any problems,